This is a rather unusual video that I'm doing for YouTube. As most of you know by now that in the last, really it's only 3 years that the YouTube for me has become more methodical and more serious in that I'm actively teaching on YouTube, and I find that every time I meet customers and friends, they all say that somehow the YouTube videos have affected them in some way, usually for the better, invariably for the better. And I'm very touched by that. But it's not often that I come across people who affect my life as well. Now let me introduce you to a certain gentleman here. Some of you who watch his channel, you had a channel which you call Nibari TV. He's Mr. Nibari TV, Claude Jackson. Now Claude has been coming to me for maybe a couple of years only to learn bonsai, and he does bonsai, and I never put any connection between him and the other side of his life. In the bonsai world, or in the circles that I mix with, I come across all sorts of interesting people. Because I have such a diverse clientele, I have people who are ordinary lorry drivers, and in the days when I used to be in the bonsai club circle, we had milkmen, doctors, all sorts of people from every walk of life. And nowadays, of course, I have multi-millionaires. Some of them are my clients who buy very expensive trees. And then on the other hand, I have simple people who come with their children, and I make them a little bonsai, and they are very pleased to do that. But little did I realize that this gentleman here, Claude, who has been coming on and off as a customer, and I think I taught you some bonsai as well.
Yeah.
So he has been coming here, but he has affected my whole outlook on life in a very special way. Let me just show you this book. Now, please don't think, if you home in on this book, this is a book that Claude wrote. It's like a biography in the short time that he's lived, called Guns to God. I'm not trying to sell you Christianity or anything. I am a lapsed Christian, I will say that. I was born and brought up as a Christian because my mother's father, that means my grandfather on the mother's side, was the first Christian minister in China, of the Church of Christ in China. So I have a Christian background. And I grew up as Christian, but I have lapsed because as I get older, I see that there is good in every religion, and that affects me in a certain way. And I live my life trying to do good for others, and that is how I live. I don't try to preach religion because I have two very strong beliefs. It may disagree with what Claude believes, but I feel that in public, or at least this is how I regard the way I live, that religion and politics are the two most controversial subjects on this planet. They are the cause of a lot of the world's ills, and also the cause of a lot of good that is in this world. So every side of the story is twin-sided, like a two-edged sword. It can do good, it can do bad. We always hear the bad about everything, you know. Some religions, I won't mention names, cause a lot of grief in this world. But on the other hand, those same religions do a lot of good as well. So I try to keep an open mind. I only confine myself to bonsai, but I feel that this video is going to be different. I'm not, again, as I say, trying to use this as a religious platform, because there is a bonsai link in here. And the link between Claude and myself is bonsai. The common ground is bonsai. So if I can ask Claude to tell me something about how he got involved in bonsai, and then we will take the story from there.
Sure. Thank you. I was watching a program about a gentleman who had visited Japan, and I had no knowledge of bonsai at this stage. And the gentleman was saying in Japan they do floral arrangements with blossoms and so forth. I never knew at the time they were Mumai trees. He just said they were popular Japanese trees. So off I went looking for a hobby, because at the time I'd given up my television. I'd stopped watching television. So I found myself with a lot of spare time on my hands and decided to take up a new hobby. When I Googled popular Japanese trees, like the chap on the television said, blossom trees didn't come up, bonsai came up. So I got myself a small Chinese elm, and then you need to learn about the Chinese elm. So began Googling, and sooner than later, herons and yourself came up, and I booked a class in and came along. And that was the start of my bonsai adventures.
So how did you find the bonsai affecting your life? Because at this point, let me just tell people, again, I'm not trying to sell this book. This book is published by SPCK, and a very famous publisher for Christian books. And this is a story of Claude. I can tell you this book was so gripping. I finished it in one sitting. I sat down at 10 o'clock one night, 2 days ago, and I finished it at 3 o'clock. In one sitting, I read the whole book. It was absolutely gripping. Very briefly, I don't want to steal thunder. This man, can you kindly stand up, Claude? He's like my minder.
Yeah,
How tall are you?
I'm 6'8".
6'8",
Yeah.
and I'm 5'7". He's a foot taller than me. Now this man, he used to handle guns. He was a drug dealer and a really bad man. If I came across him in the night about 20 years ago, he may have killed me. So this is Claude. But how has Claude turned his life round? This is the story of this book. So I urge you to read this book. It is an absolutely gripping story. Okay, so that is that side of the book. I will put that book down again because it is an absolutely fascinating story. Everything bad in this world that you can imagine, he has done. So, and then to turn it around and to use bonsai as also a hobby.
Yeah.
No, bonsai is not the therapy. I think, Jesus Christ for you was the answer to everything, which I respect. I know what it feels like as well because I've been through similar experience in my young days. But there is somehow an aspect of bonsai which is very calming to people. Yes. I find especially during the COVID situation.
Yes.
I had 7 people on the class today and every single one of them has said to me that they have found it very calming and soothing.
Yes.
And for that reason, the bonsai has affected their life. So certain things in life can be turned around and it can give pleasure and comfort. And I feel that bonsai may do the same thing. So those of you who are watching this video may be able to respond in the same way. From some of the responses I've already got from some of my other YouTube videos, I've had all sorts of stories of how it comforts them and affects them. So what aspect of bonsai did you find that was very soothing, as it were?
Yeah, absolutely right. So initially I got the bonsai to learn about bonsai, but began very quickly to learn about life through bonsai. I developed a respect for nature, for plants, and for the cultivation of life, because we think, there's a saying, we think we're developing the bonsai, but the bonsai is developing us.
Yes,
and
it's true, very true.
The more I began, I've been studying bonsai for around 5 years now. And like I said in the beginning, I had several classes with yourself. And I became more and more passionate and fell in love with bonsai. And then you develop these relationships with trees. And like I said, your outlook on life changes. And as I was journeying faithfully, I was trying to simplify life. And I think the two go together. Bonsai, like life, is very simple. We as human beings like to complicate things. But when I'm working with the bonsai, I'm in a very simple, peaceful place. For example, like you said with COVID, I spent a lot of time in the garden with my trees and my bonsai. And it's a beautiful journey to be on. It can learn about a lot about life and a lot about yourself through bonsai.
Yes, I think without, again, being religious, inverted commas, we are being spiritual in a way. And the spirituality is that we recognize, whether you call it a god or an old man in the sky or a superior being, something causes nature or plants to grow and life has a cycle,
Yeah.
and all these things interact. And if you observe nature from plants, you can observe so many things, animals as well. But if you observe the nature of plants, you see how they grow. It teaches you patience, and it interacts with you, and it gives you a feeling for life and for nature,
Yeah.
and it gives you a feeling to understand the great powers that govern these things. You know,
Yes,
we don't really
absolutely.
understand what causes trees to grow.
Yeah.
It is beyond our comprehension to understand how trees grow. But somehow it gives you that awe that there is a superior being that causes these things to grow. And I think that same being works inside your human being, the heart, if you can call it that term, that responds to how you see things growing. And that is what gives you that spirituality. I always like to call it spirituality rather than, a religion as such. Religion is too narrow. I think the universe and the spirituality is so big that once you get attuned to it, you will be able to empathize, and therefore your whole being comes complete. I know that many things make one's life complete because when you live, you need food, you need fresh air, you need entertainment, you need all sorts of things. And this is just one tiny aspect of life
Yes.
that makes the life complete.
Yes.
Don't you feel that so?
I couldn't agree more, absolutely. And through Bonsai, I've developed a love for the outdoors. Before, like you said, my life had been full of all sorts of trouble and tribulation, and I never had time for the outdoors and plants and flowers. But through Bonsai, like I said, I've developed a new love for the outdoors, and now I go for walks, and I have the privilege of coming up to herons and just looking around, and it's so peaceful, and you get so much peace from the outdoors. It really is a wonderful, if you can call it a hobby or passion to have, and it opens so many doors, and you gain friends, you meet people, and through no other interest other than bonsai, you develop great relationships with people, as have I, and I'm just really thankful to be on this journey.
I know that you are involved with the work among young offenders and all. I've often thought, because there was a time about 10, 15 years ago, there was an American couple who worked in your area, around the Tooting area, and they were working among the prisoners, and they were interested in bonsai, and they asked me if I would help them teach bonsai in prisons. I did think about it, because I know there is a German guy, years ago, he did some work among prisoners. But the only trouble with doing bonsai in a prison situation is that you have to use cutting tools, knives and scissors and cutters. So I think the prison authorities didn't like that. They said it is too dangerous. If you take that in you, they may stab you or hold you to ransom. I didn't take it any further, but I always feel that if somehow that could be introduced in some way, it may help them. So perhaps you might like to, investigate that, and I will give you all the help I can if you were to be able to give some people a new direction in their circumstances or life. I think bonsai would have a useful role to play. So this is just another facet of bonsai. For many people, it's just buying a tree or looking at a tree, but there is so much more to bonsai than just that. In my own case, I know that it's a living. I have to put what they call bread on the table, so it is a business. I employ 8, 9, 10 people now. I've got to pay their wages, so I have to charge for the trees. I can't give everything away. But at the end of the day, there are certain things that money can't buy, If I wanted to become a millionaire, I would have gone into the high-tech industry, which I could easily have done, because a lot of my contemporaries from where I graduated are all high-techy people. I could have done that, but I chose to do this because I enjoy it. So for me, life is much more about enjoyment, contentment, rather than just always making money. So that is the other aspect. There's so many aspects you can take out of bonsai and make it beneficial or a blessing to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And one of the things I'm fascinated by, Peter, is how we get to journey with these trees. Like I said, I've been doing it 5 years, and some of these trees have followed me through my studies.
Oh,
and
good.
and I know, have got trees that you've had 40 years and longer.
That's right.
And it's just amazing that these trees can walk with us through this journey that we call life. And it's a wonderful experience. I really wish everybody could explore bonsai.
Okay. So again, coming back onto a little more personal note, Claude now is training to be a minister in the Church of England. It's the Anglican Church. So you're almost there, are you? How many more years have you got?
Yeah, one more year.
One more year.
Hopefully I'll be ordained next June.
Please call me to your ordination. I will be very pleased to attend it.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be an honor.
Okay.
So one more year, and then we look into what the future holds in regards to starting my own church, possibly.
Yeah. Well, there's so many possibilities, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there must be, the powers that be must be seeing the possibilities where you can fit in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And hopefully, wherever I end up, it will have a garden big enough for bonsai.
All right. Okay, so all I can say is I wish you all the best, and I hope the viewers will benefit from this little video. As I say, I hope I'm not trying to preach or sell any particular brand of religion. It's just that I'm trying to relate bonsai to everyday life, because people have different aspects of their life, you know. Some are religious, some are not so, but everyone have their own way of seeing the world. And I'm really pleased to say that I came across your book. I don't know how I asked for that, but it is strange how different things affect different people. And I was truly, I don't like to use the word, but I was truly blessed from reading this book. And I hope it will have the same effect on other people who read this book. So all I can say is God bless you.
And God bless you.
And may you have a lovely, fruitful life and be involved with bonsai. So thank you very much, the viewers. And thank you, Claude.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.